Our top story this half hour, the future. We all know the headlines from this year, but what will they be in 2014?
John Bussey, assistant managing editor at the Wall Street Journal, joins us with a look at the big picture, economic, political, and international. John, good morning.
Good morning.
The economy has been a big story for years now and will continue to be next year. Yeah, you think?
Yeah. You know, the good news is that there's good news now. You're seeing economic growth in the country. If anything, revisions to economic growth are being sort of raised at this point. I think we probably all know people that are still looking for work, and we know companies that are still streaming, downsizing or moving divisions around to cut costs. But on the whole, things are looking better in the consumer spending.
The economists, this is something economists have been predicting now for years, though. I mean, they've been saying for the last couple of years, this is the year we're finally really going to break out. You think this year we might?
Yeah, well, I think that's happening, and it's been happening now for a couple of years. You're seeing the economic growth continuing. You're seeing employment getting stronger. Companies are hiring again. All of that's really positive. But there's this feeling of great caution about the process as well. The U.S. has been through so many knocks, and there's so many questions still overseas about how that's going to affect economic growth in the United States, that companies are really very, very careful.
You mentioned overseas. I mean, you're talking specifically about China, Japan, and Europe. They are struggling a bit financially. Could we benefit, or could it be to our detriment?
Yeah, I think that the U.S. growth, probably somewhere between 2% and 3% in 2014, is going to be a huge positive for economies overseas. All of these other areas of the world are in and of themselves engines of growth. China, Japan, Europe, all of them are going through their own restructuring at this point. They are going to be looking to the United States to kind of create a tailwind for them to draft behind, and that's probably what's going to be happening.
Let's look at politics now, because we're coming into a year for midterm elections. What impact do you think that's likely to have on a Washington that is already almost dysfunctional?
Yeah, we're already looking forward to 2014 and 2016, too, aren't we? We're very much focused on the political developments that are going to happen. You are witnessing in Washington a slow but sure improvement in the gridlock. I mean, we have a budget deal. That hasn't happened in a lot of years. That's a big positive for Washington. At the same time, the big issues, how to deal with a deficit, how to deal with a debt, have not been resolved yet. The Republicans are looking at what happened during the government shutdown. They don't want that to happen again. They know that they took a huge reputational hit for that. So 2014, you're probably going to see more of Boehner in the House, particularly trying to consolidate power of Republicans and to isolate those who are on the conservative fringe.
It's also interesting to see what will happen with the Tea Party. But we want to move on to the big international stories for 2014. China is going to be a big player in 2014. China versus U.S., China versus Asia. I mean, where do things stand right now?
Yeah, China is in the midst of rethinking how it structures its own economy. Some of that's going to benefit the U.S. It's probably going to benefit domestic Chinese companies more than foreign companies. Once again, they're going to be pushed to the side, I think. The big issue for relations in Asia is how is Japan and China, how are they going to get along? Is the friction that we're seeing develop regionally because of territorial disputes going to spin out of control? And I think that's a huge question mark. There's a lot of nationalism in both countries now. There's a lot of pride in both countries. That can be a real positive for growth. It could be a real negative.
John Bussey, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Pleasure.